You are here. Here is where you are. Awareness. It is difficult to convey just how strange it is that you are aware of yourself being aware. We don't often think about this, but there's something very odd going on here. Something that has puzzled thinkers since antiquity. It feels like we ought to have an explanation by now. Some sort of theory that explains how from elementary particles to human brains to planetary systems to entire galaxies, everything arises from the same stuff and ends up dancing together in some sort of cosmic ballet. And yet, for all our cleverness, we still find ourselves at a loss. What if the solution is hiding in plain sight? What if we've been experiencing the fundamental nature of reality all along, but not realizing it? What if everything is connected to everything else in ways we are only beginning to understand? This is the story of quantum entanglement and how it can help us understand what makes you you. You know those videos they show you in physics class with two particles on either side of the screen, and when you measure one of them, the other one instantly collapses into whatever state you measured it as. Yeah, that's what we're talking about today. In science fiction, quantum entanglement is often called a spooky action at a distance, because the connection between these two particles seems to defy conventional notions of cause and effect. But this isn't really that spooky if you think about it. There's nothing especially surprising about the idea that one thing can affect another thing, even when they're far apart. Like ripples spreading out from a pebble dropped into water, or the flocking behavior of birds or fish. Or the way a single rotten apple can spoil the whole bushel. These are examples of holism, the idea that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. But the idea that things can be affected by things they're connected to goes back much further than that. In 2700 BCE, the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu wrote, "The whole universe is within the reach of your hand." The Tao that can be grasped is not the eternal. Tao. This is the first known written record of holistic philosophy and also pretty much the first known mention of quantum mechanics. Well, maybe not that last part. Entanglement is a feature of the world according to every physics theory from classical mechanics to special relativity and quantum mechanics. But the strangeness of the phenomenon becomes apparent when we try to describe it using the mathematics of probability. Because of the uncertainty principle, a particle doesn't have a definite position and momentum until we measure it. Before we measure it, it exists in a superposition of states. That is to say, it's in multiple places at once. We can mathematically describe a particle's position and momentum using a wave function. This assigns a certain value to each possible outcome of a measurement. So in the example with the two particles, when we measure the first one, its wave function representing the distribution of possible values collapses down to the value we actually measured. And here's the weird part. The wave function of the second particle also collapses to the corresponding value, as if the two particles are communicating instantly across whatever distance separates them. The best current theories tell us that all moments in time are equally real, and all potential realities do in fact occur in some universe. Every time you make a decision, you split off into a different universe depending on which choice you made. Some universes where you chose one thing, some universes where you chose another. When we talk about parallel universes, we are talking about this kind of thing. Okay, so obviously, that's nonsense. Those particles aren't really communicating. They're both just updating their states based on the same underlying reality. But that still leaves us with the question of how that reality works. The idea of an underlying reality connecting all things is a recurring motif in mystical and esoteric traditions. If you've ever taken a psychedelic drug, you've probably had the experience of feeling like everything in the universe is somehow connected to you. The Hindu and Buddhist traditions call this the Bodhi mind. According to legend, the Buddha had this experience after eating some magic mushrooms, and it played a big role in him coming to his realizations. For Buddhists, the bomb experience is the closest humans can get to enlightenment. But it's actually something that anyone can have. And there are a lot of people who have had experiences like this without drugs too. People who go through near-death experiences, or people who meditate or spend a lot of time in nature, People like the mystics and saints of history who report having experiences of union with the divine or oneness with the universe. Jung called this feeling of connectedness to everything the sense of the sacred, and he argued that this was the primary purpose of religious and mystical experiences, to remind us that we are more than our individual selves, that we are connected to everyone around us and everything in the universe. For some, this feeling of interconnectedness can be so powerful that it inspires a complete change in lifestyle. For others, it can be a life-affirming moment that gives meaning and context to everything they do. Now, this is getting a bit weird. The psychologist Carl Jung thought that this feeling of connectedness could be explained by the idea of a collective unconscious, a kind of universal memory bank containing all the experiences of all human beings throughout history. More recently, some psychologists have suggested that this sense of connection may be related to intuition. The idea being that our brains process information from our environment unconsciously and then use this information to guide our decisions even when we aren't consciously aware of it. This is loosely backed up by studies showing that people who live in close physical proximity to each other tend to share similar psychological traits. And if you're wondering why that is, well, seems that this is due to mirror neurons in the brain which fire both when we perform an action and when we see someone else performing that same action. As David Eagleman writes in his book, Why We Believe What We Believe, the neurons that connect us to others provide the basis for social interactions. And at its most basic level, human consciousness is simply a set of neurons firing in a particular pattern. So, in a sense, we are indeed all connected to each other through our neurons and our thoughts. But if you're still skeptical and want some hard science to back up this woo-woo, then fret not, because there's actually some really cool stuff happening, right? Now that could shed new light on the nature of consciousness and the interconnectedness of everything. Physicists have figured out how to put quantum entanglement to work for us. It's being used to build the next generation of computers and to do secure encryption for communications. The first quantum computer is already up and running at Google, and other companies like IBM and Microsoft are working on building better ones. These computers harness entanglement to perform calculations that would take a conventional computer billions of years. And while that's still not enough time to play StarCraft 2-on-1, it's a start. And entanglement is also being used in cryptography to do secure encryption. The most famous example is the BB84 protocol invented by Charles Bennett and Gilles Brassard in 1984. This protocol uses entanglement to distribute encryption keys securely between two parties. So, quantum mechanics itself may hold the key to understanding consciousness and the interconnectedness of everything. Well, that's a bold claim, but hear me out. If we can learn to control and manipulate entanglement, then we will have a new tool for exploring the mysteries of the mind. For example, by putting two entangled particles in the hands of two different people, we could test theories about how entanglement relates to intuition or shared consciousness. Maybe someday soon, we'll be able to answer questions like, what is the self? How does consciousness arise from physical processes? Is there such a thing as free will? What happens after we die? But even if we never do answer these questions, that won't stop us from marveling at the strange and mysterious connections that bind us together. All around you right now, there are countless particles vibrating, spinning, orbiting, flashing, fleeting, interacting. There are atoms in your body that were forged in the cores of long-dead stars. There are molecules in your body that were formed on distant planets. There are cells in your body that were once part of other organisms. You are truly a child of the cosmos, and you are forever connected to everything that exists. All around you right now, there are countless forms of life, every color, shape, size, and intelligence imaginable. And at the heart of each of them is a spark of consciousness, a moment of awareness. You are here. Here is where you are. Awareness, and in that awareness lies the key to understanding the universe and our place in it. When we realize that we are all connected to each other in this way, we can begin to see the world in a new light. we can begin to understand that we are all part of something bigger than ourselves, and that we are all responsible for taking care of each other and the planet we all share. So the next time you feel lost or alone, remember that you are connected to everything in the universe, and that includes the people around you. Reach out to them, touch their hand, look them in the eye, and know that in that moment of connection, you are touching the very essence of existence itself. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. We explore the deepest mysteries of the universe and the latest scientific discoveries that are changing our understanding of reality.